Hello and welcome back to the Schooner Pod. The Oklahoma Sooners prevailed on the road in Rocky Top to take out the Volunteers 33 to what was it, 27, 26? I can't remember. 27. What an incredible game, Ty. Neither of us, I believe, had a lot of optimism that Oklahoma was going to come out of this one. Jameson was part of that as well. And really, when you look at the scope of Brent Venables' tenure at Oklahoma, this feels like a program defining, turning point type of win to go on in an insane environment, in an incredibly tough circumstance, in essentially a playoff elimination game, to go in there and win. It was spectacular. What are your reactions to that win? Just
Yeah,
a couple days out here.
absolutely. Electric win, awesome win. It was exactly kind of how we predicted it when we talked about, what would it take for OU to win this game? And that was winning the turnover margin, controlling turnovers being absolutely critical and a severe swaying force in the game, and then being able to lean on things like special teams, like Tate Sandell. We'll talk about him being able to go out there and hit reliably outside of 50 yards over and over and over. Those were the things that really swayed the game. I mean, like it's even just on points, we get a very different game if we don't have two turnovers that Tate Sandell turns into 6 points on two different field goals when we got turnovers and weren't able to generate offensive, forward progress at all on one of them, or offensive points. So it was absolutely electric performance, and you kind of saw what a Brent Venables Oklahoma team could do when it can play to its strengths when it can use those strengths like the defense of finally getting more turnovers to sway the game, because that was something that we've talked about in some of these past performances and some of these losses is, yes, the defense is excellent and it's not their fault that they don't get turnovers, but if they could have had some turnovers, then we're talking about maybe very different games. And this one, as we'll get into, without the turnovers, is potentially a very different game. But it was absolutely electric, very dominant. It didn't feel like a fluke win. It didn't feel like an upset. You felt like you were watching the better team win the game, which always gives me that kind of warm and fuzzy feeling for sure.
Right. And I feel like it wasn't a dominant win by any means, but it's hard to do that in the SEC. It's hard to get any wins on the road in the SEC. And you can go through, point out flaws, all that sort of stuff. If you win on the road in the SEC, that is more than enough. This is something to be just thrilled about. And to me, I think there was an idea amongst some Tennessee fans and just in general of, OU got away with this one. And, to some degree, I don't know if I disagree on that. Tennessee, I do fully disagree on that, because I think OU did deserve to win it. They were better in the back half and they capitalized off mistakes. And whatever Tennessee and Aguilar had massive mistakes, OU capitalized on it. When OU made mistakes late in the game, Tennessee didn't. And I think it bears out in the advanced metrics. You look at, overall success rate. OU deserved to win that game. And I think, to me, it starts. The two biggest factors are the turnovers and Sandell. I want to talk about Sandell for sure, but the turnovers, that was like that. You see the vision of all of it, because OU's defense is very bend don't break. You kind of saw a lot of it. Tennessee put up a ton of offensive numbers. From a statistic standpoint, they absolutely looked like they were thrashing OU in that first half. But OU got the turnovers that they needed to snuff out touchdowns, to, force Tennessee to kick. They missed a field goal at one point, a 37-yarder. And turning the ball over, that's how you can see this team go from elite, or from really, really good to like elite. And you want to talk about turning points? The R. Mason Thomas touchdown, where he put the team on his back like Greg Jennings, and just fought his way off to that touchdown. OU was about to be cooked. Tennessee, great touchdown drive to start it off.
Well,
OU goes just bust.
I don't know if
Um,
they cooked that early on, but
it felt bad. It
it,
felt bad in that
it,
stadium because it
I'll
was
admit to it right now. After that first drive and then that first OU 3-and-out, I took a live Tennessee minus 14.5 line as an emotional hedge, and I thought it was a lock. So I
it
thought
felt
it come
bad, man,
clean.
because they started driving down the field again after the 3-and-out. You're like, oh man, this might get hairy quick. And then all that momentum that was building up in that place, because that stadium was nuts, man. That
Yeah,
was the best presentation I've seen in any sport, bar none. And the people were receptive to it. They were fired up. Um, and that turnover just completely took all of the air out of that. And I
yeah.
mean, just absolutely massive.
Perfect. And a lot of people would say that it was luck, which I think there is some luck factor, but it's also you create your own luck by putting yourself in the right place at the right time. And our Mason Thomas was beating his guy and getting back there when that ball bounced his way and had the angle. And that's what football's all about. Actually, Boat Blake and I were speaking right when that play happened. And we were both talking about how, because it did look a little fishy on the live play as to whether or not he was in or out. He was clearly in once you watch the replay, but we were talking about like this is potential, defensive play of the year in college football if you factor in like impact as well, and like you said, impact on the game. That was so crucial because you were there and you can speak to this, but Neyland Stadium at night is not an easy place to play. I don't care how not good that Tennessee team is looking, and OU fans should know this if you look back at 2015 when a very, very, very good OU team went in there against a Tennessee team that was not the best that they've had in the past couple decades for sure, and had all sorts of trouble and needed some Sooner Magic and some Baker Mayfield performance to get us out of that. And yeah, R. Mason Thomas at that early on that kept us in the game. And again, it quashes the only concern that you can have on this defense is they don't generate turnovers. We talked about that on the pregame pod. Is just statistically they're not generating turnovers. They're the worst. They're in the worst group in the nation, in the bottom 10% in fumbles and interceptions recovered, and then opponent penalties. We threw that in there. That's a sort of up in the air. Who knows what causes that or doesn't. But yeah, that was, I mean, that's a play of the game for me because it sets the tone, it sets the pace. There's some offensive plays that we'll talk about here later on that were, I think, sort of equally as crucial in actually winning the game, especially later on in the game, like you were talking about when Tennessee was driving and being able to respond and say, no, we still have this. But that was certainly, I think, the one play of the game that, I mean, it encapsulated everything, right? Like that play is a single play representation of what you thought this game was going to be. You thought Tennessee's offense was going to come in here and blow the doors off OU at home and perform. And OU's defense found a scrappy way to, get the ball in their hands and take it all the way and carry the win. And that's the story of the game, story of that play. So
Yeah, I mean, the defense did so much to just keep OU around. Um, Having that score at halftime be 16-10, I was astonished, man. I was it was shocking to me, and it was one of those where you felt like if the offense could just get something going, they could win that game. It kind of felt like Texas in a way, where you're like, I don't know how we're here, but if we could just get some touchdowns, we might win this thing.
yeah,
And the offense responded in turn in that second half and closed the thing out. But you know,
absolutely.
getting that interception on Aguilar towards the end of the into the half was, I mean, enormous. Allowed Sandell to kick another field goal. It was beyond nuts.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
And I don't want to
changed everything.
before we get into it, I don't want to diminish what the offense did, especially guys like Xavier Robinson, but like without this defense putting up 7 points themselves and then another 6 points from Tate Sandell kicks off turnovers, like the defense is responsible for 13 of these points. that doesn't take it away from Tate, right? That's a shared point in my book. But this is a 20-27 game without defensive points, essentially. We're sort of bending the rules there a little bit, but it shows the importance of what this defense did, and they bore it out on their own. And if you then take that, and obviously we're just getting into make believe land and hypotheticals here, but what does OU's schedule look like in the past couple games if the defense is able to generate that many points? You get into some game changing situations, and obviously that's a bit extreme, but it's yeah, you cannot downplay the impact that the defense had on this one.
I mean, it's all the difference in a close game. It's everything. And I mean, it literally was the difference in this one, those 7 points. And, I think to me that if they can generate more turnovers, if that can be, you don't need to generate 3 every game, but, just make it felt on those moments like that can be the difference maker, because I don't think this is going to be an offense that's going to be able to go down up and down the field much. It can look a lot more improved like it did on Saturday, but those game-breaking plays can, like you said, can absolutely make the difference.
Another thing I want to mention, Bobby, and hear your thoughts on is obviously we've talked about all the flash. There was so many electric plays by the defense, like a scoop and score touchdown, which was that. I feel like I saw that ruled an interception somewhere, but all of the flash. One thing that is sort of getting underappreciated when you go and look at what some of the other people in the media are talking about this game, 63 yards on the ground from Tennessee is super impressive. And that's like just getting slept on because there's been so many other the big flashy turnovers and everything else that the defense was doing. You can look at the yards that they put up through the air. We're certainly impressive. Like almost 400 yards through the air is absolutely impressive, no matter what that touchdown interception ratio looks like. But being able to turn Tennessee's offense functionally one-dimensional, like when you hold someone to 63 yards as a team on the ground at home, that's massive. And that's really, I mean, the D-line and what they were able to do to help facilitate, the plays that the secondary could make and the plays that everyone else could make is like, it wouldn't be underappreciated. It's a tremendous performance, but there's just so much flash that you kind of forget, it's like finding the golden ticket in a, Willy Wonka chocolate bar. You're kind of forgetting that you also got a chocolate bar there that you get to enjoy.
Yeah, no, and I know that is kind of the thing, is the ability to just completely cut off that running game was astonishingly good. That was one of the things the Channel Tennessee guys talked about a lot, was that, Deshaun Bishop, Peyton Lewis, and Star Thomas all, you have this really good trio. They all do something different. And you got 38, 21, and 10 yards out of all of them. I mean, that 63 yards on 35 carries that's pretty bad. And you got to give the D-line credit for shutting a lot of that down. The linebacking core for shutting that down. Owen Heineke was a man possessed in this one. He was unbelievable. And you got to give him credit for being able to get to Joey Aguilar. He did not look composed whatsoever. We obviously talked about the turnovers quite a bit, but it put a lot of pressure on him in a way that not a lot of teams had been able to. The O-line had been much improved, and OU just kind of broke that. And I think that to me is as impressive. That's the most impressive thing all day long. Was making a team that's playing at home in a massive environment where all of the pressure is on should be on Oklahoma, and making Tennessee feel that pressure. That's some major big boy stuff right there. Incredibly proud of the defense.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the D-line had him in a headlock the entire game on the ground, and it was just going unnoticed because of everything else that was happening. And that was equally as crucial, because it's when you look at a Josh Heupel offense, he is a guy that is able to create those dilemmas. He's known for his stuff through the air, but you go back and look at his resume and what he's done at Oklahoma as an OC. and at Tennessee. And there's a lot of amazing rushers in there as well that he's able to generate and cook up plays for. And Brent Venables' defense being able to go shut that down was absolutely crucial.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Not to pick nits. The only bad thing, is the thing that kind of has been harming them all season long is the ability to, kind of whiff on a tackle and give up a massive play. The Brennan Staley touchdown was a little rough, but you were able to recover from that, and that's what matters. But
yeah,
that's just
that's
one of the
college
things.
football.
Yeah, they're not perfect. They're not perfect, but it's something that, if literally one of the few flaws I can really point out in that defensive performance, because that should have been, that should have been a 4th and 2 punt situation. But, like you said, it's college football. Nobody's perfect. Just one of the things that you can improve on. But overall, incredible night holding Tennessee to 27, and just by all means, the statistic category of that first half should have been a lot worse, but they were able to make the plays, keep them out of the end zone, and that was insanely impressive.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Go ahead. What are you saying?
I was going to say, and this sort of relates to, this could be a little appetizer before we get into Sandell, because it relates to one of his plays. But we're about 17 minutes in, and our regular listeners and viewers are noticing that Jameson is not able to join us tonight, unfortunately, for scheduling conflicts. But we've only made it 17 minutes in without mentioning this, because Jameson is not here. What is going on again with substitution penalties? Why, when we are kicking, are we trying to substitute people? Why? That does not make sense at all. We had the right snapper out there. We had the right holder. We had the right kicker. Why are we trying to substitute people? Or I guess it was a punt, so we didn't have a holder. But the substitution issues that Jameson has constantly been hitting on, always, again, popped up in the most random ways. And obviously it didn't decide the game, but those very easily can decide a game, particularly when they're coming up on like special teams of all things. A substitution issue on special teams is ridiculous.
Yeah, there were, when we talk about this game being imperfect, issues like substitutions and timeouts, that have previously been thorns in our side in the Brent Venables era, they were there, they were present, and the fact that you won anyway is impressive. But there are the timeout like early in the first quarter was, what the hell are we doing? The substitution penalties are baffling for this point in the season and this point in the tenure, and they just got to improve. I don't know what the hell is going on with that, but it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like Auburn fans want to complain about some sort of quote unquote fake substitution. They should have known that it wasn't a legitimate OU substitution because we didn't commit some sort of penalty. They would have known if it was a legit substitution, because there would have been a 5-yard penalty for something there. So it is confusing. Again, like I said, especially on special teams. But to get into the special teams, Tate Sandell, and we'll talk about his shorts, I suppose. But Tate Sandell, I've taken to calling him the truth. What is it? Tate the Truth or something in the group text? No, other people are saying Tate the Great. I like Tate the Truth. But truth feels more ominous. Like if you're in a gladiatorial arena and they say, "Oh, you're gonna face Tate the Great," you're like, "Oh, okay." Because this could be a gimmick or something. Like this could be like,
you don't like the rhyme. You rather the double T.
It can rhyme as long as it's ominous. But it's like if you tell me, yeah, we're gonna have Tate the Great at my birthday party, I think he's gonna be tying balloon animals or something. Like if you tell me Tate the Truth is gonna be there, I'm like, what is this? Like this is like the Undertaker or something is coming to the birthday party. Like it's, I better have my P's and Q's in order, because I don't know. And it feels more ominous.
Fair. And look, after that performance, every SEC school, whether or not you would make fun of the little short shorts or not, should be pretty nervous about Tate Sandell, because that guy was a beast. Just an unbelievable performance. 4 for 4 from from field goal range. two 55-yarders tied for Neyland Stadium's history. Y'all have all heard them by now. I know we're obviously getting a little late to this one, but I've never seen anything like it. It was incredible watching him just go to work. And, when the offense sputtered, just being able to get 3 points from that effort is enormous.
Yeah.
It was very, I know the Cowboys aren't exactly doing well right now, but it was almost kind of like how the Dallas Cowboys will just get in range and just have Brennan Aubrey, bang one through. It was kind of Dallas Cowboys-y, which I don't know if I love, but it's nice to have that if the situation's sputtering and you need a 55-yarder, that you're not just wasting it by kicking it into the air and giving an opponent a short field.
I will say so there's two parts to that. One, college traditional kickoff versus NFL kickoff style, where it's apparently very easy for teams to get into ridiculously long field goal range and then just hit it. Those are two completely different things. But I think the importance and Jameson, when he listens to this back, is going to be feeling like he really missed out because we're hitting all of his talking points. But on like the sports psychology standpoint, Tennessee generating a turnover and then getting a stop where we don't score, you get a big like sigh of relief, big like feeling like that's really, really a positive. You spin a negative into some sort of positive for Tennessee if they turn the ball over, but then they stop us and we don't score. And ideally, you'd want to have a touchdown at the end of the 2 turnovers that resulted in Tate Sandell 50+ yard kicks. But the fact that we walked away from both of those with points on the board keeps that as firmly, indisputably an OU win on that drive. And it keeps it firmly as a Tennessee loss. They can't, you can do like a consolation prize of, it was only a field goal, but points on the board is always better than nothing. And it was just so crucial, again, to keeping the team above water. You can get a little behind, and we saw it in this game and still win, but you have to stay above water. You can't let the game get in front of you, particularly when you're in front of, 110,000 people, 112,000 people that fit into Neyland Stadium. It was
only 102 for some reason, but it felt bigger than that.
Yeah. Well, that pregame was insane. Coming out through the tee, you have to be on top of it there. And our ability as a team to constantly hit those is, absolutely super, super important. And frankly, you see the game shifting a little bit, like you mentioned, in the NFL, where, people are taking kicking much more seriously. People are seeing more lucrative careers in kicking and more potential. And it's awesome to see it translate to on the field success for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we talk about the offense a little bit, do we want to talk about the presentation a little bit? Because that was kind of unreal, man. The light show, the running through the tee. I know there are some OU fans who are like, oh, we're so behind Tennessee. Everyone's behind Tennessee on this. That was like the Thunder are behind Tennessee, for God's sake. And the Thunder do it better than anyone in the NBA, I feel like. It was special. It was cool. Beyond awesome. I don't know in 2029 if OU is going to be playing Tennessee at night again or not, but make your way out to Knoxville. Incredibly cool experience. The night mode thing, the dark mode, it's legit. Beyond awesome. So just shout out to Tennessee for that. That was really neat. Let's talk about the offense a little bit. And I know it wasn't a great performance by any means, especially that first half, but it was exactly what OU needed to do, especially in that environment, which is beyond crazy. I left pretty impressed with Mateer's composure. I thought his confidence was back. He was running with purpose again. The ball, as a thrower, here and there, not great. Wasn't able to really threaten the secondary much with anything deep. But overall, he looked like the pre-injury Mateer for the first time. Well, pre-injury. So I felt pretty good about that.
Yeah, in terms of vibe and gameplay, I think we did see vibe-wise absolutely pre-injury and early season Mateer. And this has been one of my constant talking points that I'm just going to use, I guess, as long as Mateer's at Oklahoma. But that dial of being able to turn up aggressiveness on the run. It was obviously turned up this game. Throwing accuracy still obviously wasn't necessarily there. Haven't watched really anyone break down like the game film. I usually rely on a couple different channels on YouTube to give me some of my passing talking points. That there's a lot of people that do really good jobs breaking down a game film nowadays, which is really cool. But his aggressiveness and vibes in the run game. I mean, he had what 90 yards on the ground, 80 yards on the ground, 16 marked as carries, and then obviously he had that touchdown that really belongs to Xavier Robinson, but we can get into that because that was kind of like okay, we saved 2 seconds thing going on there. But
like I said, it wasn't perfect, and there's some weirdness. That was one
yeah,
of them.
yeah, that was just confusing. But it was certainly good to see the ground game coming back from Mateer because I think that has been a piece that's sorely been missing.
Yeah, it was. He willed the team to victory at times. That I believe it was like a 3rd and 20 something, 3rd and 23 maybe that he just sprinted all the way through. Just beautiful. That and he hit some big, he hit some big throws when he needed to. There was a nice little play where he just dropped it in the bucket to Satania that I really loved. Overall, just I was pretty happy with it. Not a perfect game by any means, but that dog will hunt. The interception was not great. I think it's silly that you're throwing in the first place. If we want to kind of talk about, we can kind of talk about that as well. Whenever we talk about confusing things, but overall, the running game, I know we kind of wrote it off at one point, but as is tradition, I guess, with these OU running back rooms, just when you think they're done, out of nowhere, someone shows up at the very end and is like, "Oh wait, we have 100-yard rushers now," and it's Xavier Robinson. He once again was incredible. 3rd straight week with a 100-yard rusher, 2nd straight for X. He's a game changer without a doubt.
And more importantly, and this was a big thing that was missing early in the season. This is what the 3rd or 4th straight week now, 3rd straight week where Xavier Robinson has had an explosive run play, which is like total yardage obviously is crucial. And like having a guy that can get 5-6 yards on like a run of the mill first down carry or something is absolutely offense changing. Like I don't want to complain about any of the things that we have in the run game here because we have a lot of stuff that's hitting right now. But Xavier Robinson's ability to generate explosive run plays from a running back is something that, we have been lamenting not having all season against even performances that we won, things like Michigan, things like Auburn against Auburn. I would still call a quality team, right? That was not an easy win for this OU team. But that's absolutely electric and so game changing because, we're walking away from this feeling like, oh, you had it in hand, but 33-27, if Xavier Robinson doesn't get that, and maybe we drag it on and win by a little bit less later on because we just sort of burn up the clock. But that explosive run play for it was like 70 yards or something to sort of seal the game and get a touchdown immediately following Tennessee getting a touchdown and really shutting them out was super, super crucial. And it wasn't a tool that we had in our toolbox earlier on.
It was 43, but it felt like 70. Because it was explosive. Yeah. And, Venables after the game said, oh, we didn't expect it to go that quick. And I kind of get that, but also just odd. I get that he was trying to pirine it, which I don't think is a bad move, but then immediately scoring anyways was a little weird. At least make them burn that last time out, so you can kind of put the screws to them a little bit. But overall, the explosive aspect is huge because the passing game hasn't been able to really generate explosives. Mateer hasn't been able to really air it out a ton, and the receivers haven't been able to get out, get a bunch of separation. Yeah. Say what you will, but having that explosive aspect from the running game is delightful. It's delightful for sure.
Yeah. And I don't think, realistically, it's probably not something we should be attempting with Mateer at this point. And again, would love to have Jameson on. So maybe we'll tap on it Wednesday a little bit when he comes on for the weekend spread. But yeah, it was again every piece is so crucial. I feel like I've been saying it was so crucial at the end of everything that we talk about, but it really was. It's a team game, it's a team sport, and you need the offense, the special teams, and the defense to really perform in unison. And this was the first time that I really felt that they were able to complement each other in a way where we could truly make up for shortcomings on the defense making up for some offensive shortcomings, but the offense still staying in the fight and giving it their best. So it was super, super important and frankly very confusing for me because I felt like I've had some pretty safe talking points dogging on our run game into our running back room. And now I feel like I'm a ball not knower for doubting it. I feel like I just didn't see the vision, although we do have some losses on our record, so it's not perfect. But yeah, if we had been running like this all season, no one would have had any doubts about this run room or anything. So yeah, Xavier Robinson, I think, is very responsible for that. But it's been a whole team effort, and I don't know where it came from because like Blaylock obviously was not obviously, but had one carry for 0 yards in this one, but he's been really, really solid in the past couple of weeks as well, and is younger, so I'll cut him some slack. But I don't know. I don't know where it came from, but I'm glad it's here.
Yeah, I don't think you can look at this as much of an indictment on Blaylock at all. It's one of those, you just keep the hot hand going.
Yeah, it's make it take it for Robinson. It's like he keeps hitting it like we're just don't touch it. Let the machine run and don't touch it. Like don't try to change something there. So
yeah, I actually would have loved to see even more carries. I know he had 16, but they were really starting to impose their will in that second half on him, and especially late, burn some clock, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That last drive where Batier throws the pick on the RPO, that's tough. It could have been better too. I wish he didn't fumble. That's unfortunate, but that sort of stuff happens.
Yeah.
Overall, you live and you learn. I thought the receivers they're okay. They did their job. Nothing spectacular across the board for anyone, but no massive mistakes or anything. Just decent game. So I overall
feel like on the receivers, I do want to touch on, it was a very heads up game from the receivers. Like there was clearly some coaching, clearly some film review or something that was, and I don't think it was a problem before, but there was clearly some coaching and some effort put into like, hey, let's be really aware to keeping plays alive and having to revert to backyard football at some points, because I know there were 2 receptions from Deion Burks and then a reception from Kanik that were both in that, like the ball's been snapped like 7-8 seconds ago at this point, and we're just going off the reservation and just seeing what happens and continuing to get that effort in from guys. When you get into that Baker Mayfield, that Johnny Manziel style football, where you're just rolling out and slinging it to a guy that has abandoned his route and is now just rushing back to get any yards on the play. I feel like we did that better in this game, and it's still crucial. It's still very, very crucial because again, you're turning, an incompletion into some sort of positive yards on plays like that. I know Burks had one that was like a ton of effort and a ton of grinds, and we got like 4 yards on it, if my memory is serving me correct. But again, 4 yards is better than 0 yards.
Yep,
in a lot of situations. Sometimes the clock is a factor, but I think on the run room, that was one thing that I noticed. And they've had moments in past games where they've absolutely done that. But I feel like every single play, I was seeing 100% effort every moment from the receivers all over the field to continue to try to stay open and generate anything, because you need that in a game like this.
Yep. I mean, absolutely. Yeah. The improvisational aspect is super important, and you have to be able to adapt. And yeah, I'm with you on that. Offensive line, I ain't going too in technical or in depth on that, just because, you know what you know. And but what I do know is that I love Eddie Pierre Louis, total psycho, going out, headbutting Fasusi. That's what I need. I need some nasty. I want some nasty on my lines. I obviously don't have a ton of experience in football beyond elementary and middle school, but back in my day, on the Edmond All Sports Falcons O line days, I liked I knew the importance of being a little nasty down there, getting your hand in the dirt, and I love that about Eddie Pierre Louis. I hope we see a lot more of him. Um, I feel like that room has kind of taken a bit of a turn and for the right ways. So feel pretty good
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. And obviously Tennessee wasn't known for their defense. And 3 tackles for loss and 3 sacks are not what you want to see. But again, we outrushed our opponent. Not again, because I haven't mentioned this yet, but we outrushed Tennessee by over 120 yards. That was the delta between us and them. We had almost 200 yards on the ground. We have not been generating yards on the ground in past games, really outside of, I mean, teams that are irrelevant. And then South Carolina in conference, I think we had pretty good on the ground, but um, it was much improved from what we have seen in the past. And again, it's nothing necessarily to write home about, but if you look at not just our preseason predictions for the line, but basically what everyone was saying preseason about this line, and even a couple weeks ago, people were calling for heads on the line. Where they've gone or where they started and where they have now gone is very impressive. And it's obviously good enough to win games. And frankly, if you told me, like, hey, you can replace 1 or 2 position groups on this offense with someone else's position groups, I probably wouldn't take the line top two. I maybe wouldn't even take the line top 3. Like, the line would maybe be the last thing that I touch. And you can always do better, sure, but I don't think anyone should be faulting the line at this point. They've done everything they could. They've really, really, really made massive improvements, and like, you're not tearing your hair out or smashing your TV because of things that this line does. If you're aware of what college football is, like, there's always going to be games where you give up a couple sacks and everything else. It's kind of what makes college football different from the NFL. There's always going to be some goofy penalties here or there, like, no matter how well coached your line is. Like, there's always going to be that element of, oh, these guys are, they're still learning a little bit, but
Well,
that's what makes
especially with
college
such a
football
young,
special.
like the unit that they're throwing out there is super young too. Like Fasusi and Foje are both, true freshmen, and, EPL's just barely been there. So it's, you're rolling out some young fellas given, a couple key injuries. So the fact that they're able to go out there and produce on a, SEC level is beyond impressive for sure. So, um, yeah, I'm pretty pumped about the O-line for sure on this one. But overall, hell of a game, hell of a win. As I said to start this is a defining win in the Brent Venables era. Um, and truly, it's one I wasn't sure if he was capable of really pulling this sort of thing out. Um, because we've seen this story many, many times before, and crucial got to have it moments. He put it together, and I'm glad it happened. I'm glad it happened on Rocky Top with a fan base we've definitely had our moments with, but um, incredible special situation there for OU, and you feel like everything could be ahead of you here, Ty. We thought that splitting this, kind of duo of road games with Tennessee and Alabama, opens up for a lot of possibilities here. If you win both, that changes that equation entirely as well. But before we look ahead, any final thoughts on this Tennessee game?
No, it was exactly ideally what you could have expected. Sorry, if you had realistic expectations. It was, things weren't going to magically fix themselves. Like, Mateer wasn't going to magically become the most accurate dude in the world. Like, our receivers were not going to become magically the most amazing, like, deep ball, just smoking people on fades. like our backs weren't going to magically turn into Adrian Peterson or Samaje P. Ryan. So you have to keep expectations realistic. And what we saw in this game was a college football game. There's going to be goofiness. There's going to be missed tackles. There's going to be missed assignments. But we saw, I think, frankly, I think is the best performance from this OU team yet. And I know that's sort of controversial. You can turn the clock back and look at some more dominant wins and things like that. But I think the OU team that played against Tennessee last Saturday, if they continue to play like that, beats every other week's OU team. Yes, it's the same team, but this team, and it should be the best team because it's continuing to grow and develop. But I think this team soundly beats every other OU team week by week this year. So I'm excited to see what we can do.
They've gotten scrappier. They've gotten better at finding ways to win. And
I guess it's an identity finding game.
Yeah. It's a dig down deep and see who you are. You know, this was a figure out what you're made of type of game and type of performance. And I like where it's heading. I like where the program's heading. And, you know, we said at the start of the year, 8-4 was kind of our low level mark or our mark of like that's a pretty decent year. 9-3 is still very attainable. And, so looking up next, we got a bye week and then a massive game with Alabama here. Fourth in the country. They've been rolling, looking like one of the best teams in the country since their loss to Florida State. I don't want to do too much previewing. We have a long time before that game, but Ty, now that we sit here after the second bye week, 3 games left on the slate with Alabama, and then 2 home games with a Missouri team without Bo Pribula and an LSU team who sacked their coach, 2 weeks ago. What's your outlook for the Sooners? How are we feeling about them? The first college football playoff rankings come out tomorrow night. Are we starting to believe? Did we just witness the start of a Red November sort of situation where you can go on a run to the CFP? Like, what are we thinking about the ceiling of this team?
Yeah, so it certainly is a championship November, not in the sense that we're going to be in the hunt for the SEC championship, but we went to this conference to play these games. Obviously, we expected to bring a bit of a better product to the table on our ends, but we went to this conference to play these consequential games, and it's not detrimental to us to have like going to Tennessee, going to Alabama on our schedule, because that's why we're here. And it's on us to bring, our end of the bargain to the table. And we're in a situation now where, frankly, I think 9-3 in the regular season should be the floor. Like there's one excusable loss left on this schedule. I think we should win them all. I think we could with some luck, but Missouri and LSU are inexcusable at this point from this team. And I think 9-3 is very possible. There's a lot of football left to be played across the country. So what 9-3 gets you in this college football landscape in 2025 is yet to be seen. There's a lot of consequential games by a lot of teams. I mean, Ole Miss, I think, plays no one actually anymore, but they still got to play an SEC championship game potentially.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of football left to be played by everyone, and this could pan out anyway. So it's definitely possible a playoff run from this team. We have the games in front of us, so we can produce the resume. Like if we're, and this is hypothetical, I'm not jinxing anything. If we're Bama's only other regular season loss, and we're a 2-loss team, and those losses are to Texas, that is potentially, I guess, not good at all, but the media thinks they're good. And then an Ole Miss team that is at least going to look very good because they beat us and then sort of beat a bunch of other people that are directional schools and things like that, all within the state of Mississippi. There's definitely a playoff chance for sure. We're definitely playing, playoff caliber games already in early November.
Well,
That's definitely
look,
possible.
I'll say this, Ty. If OU ends up 10-2, like they're on, I think I'd be astonished if they weren't in at that point. Just
No, in
given.
an OU team that's 10-2 with a win at Tennessee, with a win at Alabama, and
Mhm.
then with a win against a Missouri team that I think is probably still going to end up ranked. Mm, well, Missouri could beat Texas A&M. Like there's scenarios where Missouri could still be ranked at the end of the season, even with a loss to us. Um, yeah, I mean, like Ole Miss and Texas being our losses is certainly much more excusable than like had we dropped South Carolina or something.
Yeah, and I think when you just look at it all, the other two lost teams, I think Oklahoma has a better would have a better resume than those. I think OU would be in a position to host a first round college football playoff game, which would be absolutely madness in Norman. Um, a 9-3 OU, I don't think you can completely count out, but I think you need a lot of madness to happen.
You
Uh,
need, yeah,
you need a
that's
lot.
up to other people more than it's up to us at that
Right,
point.
but it would be the most convincing 9-3 ever if that loss was Alabama. So you would need some stuff like Virginia would have to start taking some losses. You would need Louisville to start taking some losses. You would need it to be a bit mucky. These other teams from other conferences who didn't win their conference would have to look a little bit shaky or shoddy in comparison. Um, so there would need to be some action happening around the country, but I don't think 9-3 is a full disqualifier. I think you have a puncher's chance though at squeezing in late, but at that point you're running up against some sort of juggernaut. Um, Probably won't, maybe will. If you ask ESPN's playoff predictor, they're pretty bullish on the Sooners getting in, which again that's just numbers and BS, and you never know. But given who they played, given strength of record, everything you've heard them say, matters or he's going to be included. Um, I don't know. There's a chance, but ultimately, you have a chance to beat Alabama, and if you beat Alabama, everything's open for you. And you know, I don't know if this team is good enough to beat Alabama on the road, but if you can beat that Alabama team on the road, you can do anything in college football, and that includes win a national championship. And I know that
Yeah,
sounds like blasphemy, but if this OU team does it, if any team does that, you have to feel pretty good about anything they can do. So,
yeah.
yeah,
It would take a performance similar to what we saw this past weekend, and then
but tighter. It has to be
with a
even
step
tighter.
forward. Yeah, with a step forward from the offense. You would need more than 20 points from the offense. And you would need them to be like real game time. I mean that like the last touchdown by the offense is still real game time and that was crucial, but that was a situation where Tennessee was down and desperate and like you need this OU team to be on top of the game from the start. You can't have some pretty atrocious offensive drives like we've had because you would at a minimum need to give the defense a bit more of a break um, to have a chance at this one.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's going to be an intriguing game, and I'm looking forward to diving deeper into that later. Um, any final thoughts as we wrap things up? A little bit of a speedier episode with the 1v1, but yeah,
Yeah,
and no game to
it
preview.
it should be though because I guess with a 3-person pod, like we kind of if we did 50 minutes on two, we each spoke for 25 minutes
There
versus
you go.
I don't know what our split would be for an hour. 20
That
minutes,
actually does pan out.
5 more minutes
So
of Bobby and Ty content. All we
yeah,
had to
there
do
you
was cut out James.
go. Just for effectiveness, just
Yeah.
saying. All right. Well, that's all we got for this week. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll be back on Wednesday to preview week 11 of college football. Take a look at the spread, the sheet. Um, it's a bit janky. It's not the best slate we've ever seen, Ty, but I think it'll still be a fun week of college football because there's always something crazy that happens. We got a lot of crazy stuff that happened this past weekend, for God's sake.
Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about on the weekend spread on Wednesday when we're joined by Blake and Jameson as well to discuss our picks across college football. So very excited for that one.
Yeah, should be a good one. But until then, y'all have a good bye week. Spend some time with the family, relax, take a little bit of a breather because these final 3 games are going to be pretty exhilarating for sure. All right, till then, for me and Ty, this has been the Scooter Pod. Have a good one. Boomer sooner, everybody.